I'm going to try to pull together some of my thoughts and feelings from the past few days because I've been thinking quite a lot. I've been writing a lot. For starters, I can't really say what I believe is going on, as in, our existence and our reality is governed by how we think. And the present game at hand in 2025, as a 21-year-old who didn't go to college, so my graduating class of 2022 are now mostly seniors. I do not believe that it is our duty, responsibility, or it is in our best interest to continue the lives of our parents, meaning signing up for a job for the next 40 years. You know, you take your degree and you'll go get a job, and then eventually you'll collect your 401k, and you'll have worked all this time to enjoy some form of a retirement in your 50s and 60s. That's ridiculous. That is completely ridiculous. That is not... What? At one point, there was a time when you could have what is yours by making it yourself. Now we buy houses from a bank. The bank can come and take your house if you don't pay your taxes. We pay taxes almost everywhere. And I do not believe the system today is fit to support this upcoming generation of thinkers and people who aren't necessarily willing to be a part of it. I don't have a job. I haven't had a job since July. I was fired because a coworker of mine was not getting along with me, and it was a small local business, so they decided that I should go, which was great because I ended up taking that as the initiative to go, and I sold all my stuff and I went to New York City, and I had a fantastic ride, and full circled ended back up at home. Probably because I wasn't willing to be on the street in New York. Maybe I should have been. Maybe I will be. I'm willing to sacrifice almost anything for my freedom, as I believe that when I've become so attuned to the present moment, it's hard for me to sacrifice my time. Even if it's like, okay, well, we're going to give you money for your time. My time is worth all the money in the world. It is. I mean, my time is worth lots of money, not just a minimum wage. And so I'm considering lots of different options as I move along. I've been sharing consistently on social media, something I'll always continue to do as long as it is there. If it is there, I'm going to do it. If it's one day it's not there, I'm not going to be able to do it. I'm not going to do it. I don't know how temporary I'm aware of how temporary everything is. An asteroid could hit our planet. And that's not a bad thing. It's just a thing. It's happened before. We've become so attached to these bodies and our lives that we cling to our identity. And it's ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. Totally ridiculous. I'm on my front porch right now. At the house I was raised in, a little half-acre plot inside of a neighborhood, across from a busy street, next to a fire station, where there's almost nowhere I can walk to really have any sort of meaningful conversation and interaction. But that's the problem with this city. If I was to go back to New York, it would be an interesting adventure, and I'd have no choice but to make it. I would have no means of supporting myself financially. And I guess it's like I was writing in my journal, make money. What does it mean to make money? Because we don't make money. Literally, we don't make it ourselves, right? It's a number. Most of the times we're not even often paid in cash. It's just a number that's transitioned into your bank account. And we're floating around all these numbers that have some sort of a weight because we've given them weight. And I think that's ridiculous. I think that's totally ridiculous. And I was talking to my neighbor, who's a Navy SEAL, was a Navy SEAL. And he said, what I'm doing as an artist is harder than being a Navy SEAL because there's no path to take. There's no blocks, that you can follow. There's just a whole lot of faith and a whole lot of hope and a whole lot of continuation of just never quitting. And I agree, that is a pretty difficult thing to do. So, like, if you're a creative out there and you're listening, it's a pretty hard game, And I've thought myself into quite a hole, because I'm definitely want to be around, I don't fear death whatsoever. I've been listening to You Gotta Die by Blind Willie McTell since I woke up this morning. Yeah, you never know the minute or the hour, but you got to die. So we all might as well live in union, he sings. And maybe I'm just a little bit confused. Actions of the past and looking at where I am now and how I got here now. And I'm pretty happy with where I am now because I'm sharing and I'm communicating and I'm writing and I'm journaling more than I have in the past. I'm just not sure. I'm just not sure, man. So I'm just leaving this behind. That's all it really is. Feeling things out and leaving them behind. I think it's up to our generation, this group of people 4 years older than me and 4 to 5 years younger than me, that are going to be able to be responsible for the most change we want to see in the world, but how many of us are going to be willing to take the proper steps in motion to get there? And it requires a lot of sacrifice. We had something in the 60s that wasn't just like some fairy tale. That was a real movement that did bring around a lot of social change. I mean, the civil rights movement was happening hand in hand with the counterculture of the time. It was all this thing together. People were gathering, and there was community centralizing in major cities like New York City, San Francisco. And are we willing to just continue on in this game? Because I'm not. And that frightens me to the extent, because I'm really not. So that means I'm going to have to sacrifice certain things soon. I don't want a cookie cutter reality, I want risk, I mean, you only have to lose your body. I believe that consciousness is not unique to the universe. There's multiple forms of consciousness. It happens that we're experiencing a dimension of it in this 3D physical plane where, you bleed, you can get disease, and you die. But death is not, no one has ever seen outside the veil of death. Still, this world's beautiful. I mean, it's not like I say these things because I'm depressed in any sort of way. I don't want that to come across as an intention or a underlying meaning. I'm not. But I think that's just a realistic look at things, that we've grown attached to our bodies so much in the present century and the last century. I was listening to, I'll pull it up here, a lecture by a gentleman whose name is Aldous Huxley, on knowledge and understanding. And the intellect is responsible for many of the misfortunes that we find ourselves in the present day and age, and it's only gotten worse since he's delivered this lecture, where we have commodified everything that capitalism. We are in a post-capitalist world. People can't afford to live, and some real social change has to and is probably coming very soon, and I hope to be a part of that. I'll bang a drum, tap a tambourine. I really hope to see something happen while I'm alive. I don't want to just nod along and play the game anymore. Not that I really ever have. I've had jobs for spans of times, months, a year, here and there, since I got out of high school. I've seen what work's like. I've seen the people who are just absolutely suffering in kitchens. They're suffering. Weed and alcohol is getting them by. And if things have become so bad that people depend on marijuana to get them through, that's not good. That's not good. We're not supposed to be smoking pot to sedate ourselves completely from the world around us to the point where we become content with it. Right? It's one thing if you want to go smoke marijuana, but if you're smoking marijuana because you're wanting, then now you're becoming complacent. You're saying, all right, well, everything's fine. Everything's really not fine. I mean, it is. The universe is all right, but our world on this 3D dimensional plane that is our reality, that has presented itself as being physical and objective, things are not okay. There's a lot of suffering. There's wars being fought, and politics are in shambles. So our generation needs to speak up. We all need to get together and say something, and collectivization has to happen, and it can't exist just on the internet where you have all these little subgroups, because what's happening is you'll have one person, let's say it's me, and I end up being in the position of having this community. The community is completely spread across the globe, and we all have to come together again. I hope someone out there who's watched this to this point has somewhat understood what I'm getting at. It's not scary. There's nothing to fear. But we have a... it's my belief that there's a responsibility that comes with being human. And that manifests on different levels, right? Some people have a responsibility to their community, and some of us have a responsibility to use our voices to bring change. I find myself has always been some form, in one way or another, of a revolutionary in the way that I've thought, thunk, felt, feel. And I don't know, man. This species is capable of so much, but right now it seems that humans have only been bringing damage to the earth, and the earth will clean itself. You know, we may think we're special because we have the intellect to conceptualize our thoughts into language that is understood, but that doesn't make us special. We're just here. I mean, the conversation I've been having with people is asking them, what do you need? Now, there's really only two, in my opinion, there's two things you need as a human being. Everything else is accessory to the experience. You need food and you need water. You do not technically need shelter. However, there are elements at nature that would suggest you do not want to be caught cold in the woods, because you will die. You will die in the woods alone if you do not have any form of shelter whatsoever or any form of heat. But you do not need shelter. At least you do not need it in the form of an apartment or a house. You need food and you need water. You don't even really need clothes in certain seasons, which, you know, the modern world would be like, what? Of course we need clothes. Okay. So you need food and water, and the rest is accessory to your experience, so you get to decide. And what I'm trying to let go of is my endless desire for more, which has brought me much dissatisfaction with my present situation, which altogether is not bad at all. I was raised incredibly Christian, that the only way to look at life is that there is a God, and that there is a Father, and that there is a Creator, and that there is a Christ who will come and save us and redeem us. I wear the crucifix or the cross as a symbol of love, because that is the message that I always took from the stories. Jesus said, you know, my favorite thing, where were you when I was naked and I needed clothing and I needed shelter? Where were you? And they say, well, we never saw you like this, Lord. We never saw you without clothes, and we never saw you without food. And he said, to the least amongst us that you have done this to, so if you help people, you have done it to me. And I think that's a beautiful way of how we should be able to treat everyone in the world. That, you know, some people are like, oh, these homeless people begging for money. Personally, I feel, because I've never begged for money in my life, because that requires a huge sacrifice of will, that's a really that takes a lot to do, and that's not an easy thing by any means to do. So, and then some people will be like, these people aren't even really homeless. Dude, they're on the side of the street. That, like, we've gotten to that point where that's like in this country especially, I've been to Europe this summer, and I've not seen the poverty that exists here. In this country that is the United States of America, that is supposed to be the land of the free, that we are supposed to be living in a beautiful, you know, world, it is not. If I go, let's say 20 miles over to the next town, there are people living in poverty. There's people living in poverty here in my community, but it's not so much a community as it is just a city. There is no community. I'm on my front porch. I'm the only one outside. To get back to the religious thing, I was raised incredibly religious, and as I moved into my teenage years, I was very, like, you know, growing dissatisfied with this, because I was looking at the world and I was saying, well, there's no way that this is the only outlook. Like, Christianity, I was born Christian. If I was born into a Jewish family, I would be, you know, following that religion, and if I was born into a Muslim family, I would be, you know, following Allah. Or if I was born in India, or I'd be Hindu, or China, I'd be some form of a Buddhist. And so when you're able to look at all the books and conceptualize them as a framework of ethics, virtue, and morals, that's great. But when you impose that your will on another person's free will, that doesn't seem to be helpful for anybody. It's actually counteractive to whatever it is we're doing on Earth. And in the present century, the responsibility is becoming more apparent that we do have something to do here. I personally would not bring kids into this world presently. Like today, hell no. No. Even if I had lots of money. Because I need to see certain change instilled. We need to see people who are working to support the nations around the world, like our essential workers. They should be getting the most money. They should be getting millions of dollars. They should be rich. If you are a garbage collector, you should be making hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. You know, in school, if they taught us how to live, if they taught us how to build homes, if they taught us how to plant gardens, if they actually taught us how to sustain our lives ourselves, we'd be in a better position. But no, that is not what we learn in school. In school, we don't even learn how to pay taxes. Last I checked, I didn't take a class on how to pay taxes. I don't know how to pay my taxes. My father's paid my taxes for the past 2 years. I don't know how to pay taxes. Now, we have the AI, so I can probably I'll figure it out. Also, at any point in your life, it is never too late to learn something. You know, you hear the phrase, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And for certain people, that's true. But if you have the willingness, if you have the will, anything's possible. And I have the will to be successful as an artist because I believe that I deserve it. It's as simple as that. I believe that what I am doing is unique to my experience, but not necessarily unique to me, that I am like any form of a messenger. I've been saying for a while now that I am a conduit of energy, and at certain times a high level of electricity will pass through me to transmute an idea into a form that we can all look at, i.e. music or art or a photo, or I have an idea for a video, or I have an idea for a poem, or I have an idea to do this. Right? I'm just communicating what comes through me, and at the best times, I'm only a vessel. I am only a vessel. I am only a conduit. I do not believe anything I have ever made is unique to me. It just so happens that it passed through me, and I hope that all artists view things like this. And that I am blessed, and that I am very grateful because I can look at the bastion that has become the work that I've done, the time I spent, the tears I've cried, to put out this energy that I can listen to. But it only exists in the digital world. And I'm trying to make things happen here in the physical world, as far as like physical media being so important to me as I move into this next year. Because, you know, Spotify and Apple Music could all go away. And that's not a livelihood. You know, for some reason I thought you got 3 cents a stream, so I was looking at someone who has like 1 million monthly listeners, and I was like, damn, that's a lot of money they're making every month. Damn. No, it's 0.003 cents a stream. Maybe there's a contract out there that's 0.012, but right now, for the average person, it's 0.03 from 003. So for me, it's 0.003. I would need hundreds of millions of monthly listeners to have a sustainable income off of streaming alone. So streaming is no form of a way you can make money. You can have 1 million monthly listeners on Spotify and still be broke. Because that would cover your most basic essential needs. Food, water, right? And food's expensive, and there's no community gardens. When are we going to do this? How is it going to happen? When is it going to start? It requires people to help people. There has to be people above my station in life, right? Where I am right now. I'm sitting outside on this porch. I don't have any money. There has to be people above us who are going to be willing to bring people together and collectivize so that we can all live one with one another. You know, it's a lie that when we die we get to go to some sort of promised land. This is the promised land, to feel and touch the trees and be with nature and eat an apple and eat a grape and eat a banana and look at the birds and the clouds and the sky and close your eyes and sleep. That's pretty promised to me, man. I've been singing, the promised land is earth amongst the fields and the stones. The promised land is earth amongst the fields and the stones. You know, you listen to Zeppelin and you get the idea that we really are in some form of a heaven, but there are aspects of this reality that are very much akin to what some people describe as hell. The suffering, the turmoil, the distress. So, this is a call to arms. We are capable of bringing in change together. I want to start conversations. This is me initiating it. Please feel free, if you've watched this at any point in time, whether it be now or in 100 years, if YouTube is still here in 100 years, to enter your thoughts. And I hope that in 100 years we won't be having to have conversations like this, and we will all be together again. You know, families aren't even together. Let me talk about my family. A marriage used to bring two groups of people together, and now it doesn't seem to do that in many parts of our world. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, all right? Like, I made a video talking about how people don't come out on their porch. Well, here they don't, but people were commenting here in the South we do, here in the Midwest we do. So everything is unique to my experience, and in my experience I see that my family is divided off of either politics or religion, and that if my family were to all to get together, we could have the change that I'm speaking on. But they're not going to be willing to listen to me, because they're like, well, this boy's never worked. It's like, I'm sorry, but I just don't see that as being our great purpose on earth, to accumulate money. Right? I want money, and I will have a lot of money, and I will share a lot of money. If I made $1 million today, I'm giving out $900,000. I'm going to find the people who need it. I'm going to bring them in and say, let's work on something together. Let's do something together. I'm not going to be greedy. I'm not going to go get a Maserati. What the fuck are you gonna do with the Maserati, dude? You may be like, well, it feels really cool to drive the Maserati. I'm sure it does. You know what doesn't feel cool? All the people who could have, like, you could have helped. And you might say, well, that's just not my problem. You know what? I believe it is. And I think that, yes, we deserve peace, and all of us deserve to have our own free will, but that comes with the responsibility that you are doing something to help. I'm all for the idea that, you know, like, let's say Taylor Swift is a billionaire, apparently. Where is she pulling people together into a community? Instead, she's charging hundreds of dollars for concert tickets. So even to afford to go to one of her concerts, to be a part of something, you have to be a part of this system. She's contributing directly to the system. I'm not saying she's a bad person. I'm just saying that it is not clear to me that she is providing people like myself and others with the resources to communicate ideas on a larger scale, to enact more social change. Instead, we're divided by class in a way that has never been seen before. And it started at some point in the 1900s, in the 20th century, and it's only realistically, if nothing changes very soon, going to become worse and 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 worse. if we buy into the system. If we do not buy into the system falls apart. There's a level of revolution that comes with it, some form of a battle. I've always looked towards the life of John Lennon, and when I was 16 and 17, I had a CD player, still do, and I had taken a CD from someplace, I don't know. Taken. I believe I stole it. Of Plastic Ono Band. And I listened to this record over and over, and especially I listened to the song, I still listen to the song Working Class Hero. At the end of the song, if you want to be a hero, well, just follow me. And when now I've watched the documentary that came out 1:1, and you actually look at the activism that John was a part of using his platform in the 70s, none of the other Beatles did what he was doing. George went off and did his spiritual thing. Paul was like, I'm a pop star, I'm Paul McCartney. And then Ringo was like, and still's like, and it's like, John was the only one who was like, holy shit, alright, I can help people. I have the money to help people. I have the money to bring and speak on things. I have the money to bring people together. He threw free concerts. He threw rallies. He made marches. There was protests in the streets. He contributed donations to charities. And then he died. And, I haven't seen any evidence that, like, objectively says that he was killed by some form of a political agency, but I disagree with the notion that some random guy from Hawaii just randomly had it in him that he's going to go shoot John. Just like we're told in school that John F. Kennedy was shot by, give me a second here. I know his name, but it's not coming to mind. Anyway, we're told that, and you look into it, and it's not like that at all. And we're told that Martin Luther King was shot by another man, and you look into it, and it's just not that way at all. It's just objectively not. It is a factual statement that these men were not just randomly killed one day. I'll say something very dangerous right now, and probably it's a little scary to me, but I want to make sure that it is documented that I believe that I am willing to die for these ideas. And that's okay. Because I'm thankful for the opportunity to be able to share thoughts like this. Listen to Blind Willie McTell. Listen to the blues. Expose yourself to what came before and the art that has been passed down from generations, because the art we're creating now is not traditional. What is tradition? Tradition is a story that has been passed down. And the human story is not together anymore. You could web it together and look at history and be like, okay, we had all these races. And in the present day, maybe we have another 1,000 years before things really fall apart. I'm not exactly sure. I haven't been to school to study, but I have read things, I've listened to things that suggest that every so many revolutions, things will reset themselves. Totally. The Egyptians were at the center of science and math. Plato or Homer talked about Atlantis being a real place that was washed into the sea. And in the Bible, they say that there was a flood. And in other texts, in ancient Sumeria and Babylon, there was like flood stories. We've lost so much of our DNA of what makes us what we are, of who we are, because things have become, it's like a long game of telephone, and the game of telephone, it's becoming to the point now where if you mention ancient Sumeria to certain people where I've mentioned these things to my mother, she outright refuses to believe them, that it is made up. And if we do not hold our historical documents to be completely objective from speculation, we are fucking doomed. If we cannot believe in ancient history and we just shrug it off as being ancient, it's our history. We were a part of it. No, not you and your name and, the identity that is yourself, but us, our blood, man. I've been feeling like an alien lately. I've kind of always somewhat felt like an alien, and sometimes when people do things, I'm like, that's not the way it is. That's not how we do that. That's not how we treat people. We don't treat people like that. I was having a conversation with someone that came into my Instagram DMs, and it's like, silly monkey make war. Because if you look at it from an outsider perspective, if you look at it if you sit in the UFO right now and you look down at the Earth, why would you come here? This is like the best entertainment ever. If I was an alien and we progressed to the point of space travel, to progress to the point of space travel, everyone has to come together. Yes, it is possible. It is. People are like, no, we'll never be able to travel across the galaxy. Absolutely not. If we continue waging wars against each other, you morons. We're fighting over land that is not ours. We are fighting over ideals that are not ours, that are completely fictional, based on the idea that we idolatrically worship language that is written from a point of no understanding. It's pseudo-knowledge. That's what I heard. And it's completely right. There are people dying and killing each other because they have pseudo-knowledge that suggests that their God has put them in the position to cleanse the infidels. The Catholic Church ran across through the Middle East. They ran across Europe and they persecuted Muslims and pagans. What were pagans really doing? They were living in the woods off of the land, and they were, dancing around a bonfire and screaming hoorah. We should all be able to dance with love and in communion with this earth. And as I continue the stream of consciousness and the stream of thought, I want to say that I am still young, and I have much to read, and I have much to learn, and that I'm not coming from a place of absolute knowledge, but mostly feeling and observation of my experience. And I recognize the limits of my experience to what I can still learn and still share, but I'm not going to let that stop me from ever doing anything. I am not the best guitarist. I don't want to be, but I'm not going to stop myself from playing the guitar because I enjoy it. It feels good. It feels right. It's what I want to do. It's what I'm doing. It's what I've been doing. So whether you're at the beginning or the top, there's always room to learn, and there is never a point when you're ready. You just start. You just go. You put one foot out the door and you say, all right. You're never going to learn anything if you don't begin. That seems very obvious to me, but that's not obvious to some people, right? And right now, I think there's a lot of things that I need to learn because I don't know how to change a tire on a car. I don't know how to replace oil. And let's find the lighter. I just want to make sure that I am living what I don't want to use the word preaching, because once again, I am not I'm just trying to transmit what I believe the universe has always told us. None of this is unique to me. Nothing I say is unique to me, oh my gosh, this guy has it figured out. I don't have anything figured out. I literally have lost all sense of a plot because I believe that we decide the narrative of our lives. We write the narrative of our lives. When I was a kid, they told us you were the author of your destiny. No one writes. No one's journaling. No one's documenting the experience. They are just living through another man's eyes, whether it be scrolling or watching videos. They don't write their own songs. You know you can write your own song, man? And it feels fucking awesome. I don't think like music is unique to... Some of us are more predisposed to use it as a means of like communication, but that's the idea. We could all be in a band with 100,000 people, and we would find harmony, and it would be magnificent, even if we were all just playing one note. I believe that was Jimmy's idea when he founded Electric Lady Studios, that we would just make up the language, even if we didn't know what we were doing. And now, you can't even get into Electric Lady. Even if you have like, even if I had like $100,000, I'm not getting in. Selling your soul, that's what they always say, right? That's what I was raised on my whole life. When I looked at rock and roll at an early age, I was put away from it because all those people sold their soul. And I don't think so much as it is selling your soul to a devil. It is selling your soul in the sense of giving up this right here and deciding, all right, well, I have $10 million and that's great. I can go buy me this. I can buy me this house. I don't have to do anything anymore. I can get big, old, and fat, and I can drink all the wine, and nothing else matters. I'm living happy. And that's great. That's great. That's a real trip, man. That's a real nice trip. But I'll tell you what, it does not seem that is going to make you get anywhere special. My neighbor mentioned that when people have near-death experiences and they come back, they speak on authenticity being the most prized thing that we can do as human beings. But what does that mean? What does authenticity mean? Because I think authenticity is unique to every experience, but there has to be some sort of borderline baseline of authenticity. I think this is a form of it. I wish that everyone out there right now that's just scrolling, my wish right now, I'm putting it into the wind, is that you write something down and that you record some sort of a video and you say, here I am. That can be the title of your video for everyone. Here I am. Record a 5 to 10 second video of exactly where you are. Doesn't matter what you look like. Let go of wanting to look a certain way. You don't have your makeup on. Your hair looks like this. Blah, blah, blah. I buzzed my head. Oh, and that felt so good. You have no idea how refreshing it is. I could give a damn what I look like. I could give a damn what I look like. Maybe I'll get face tattoos one day. I really do want some tattoos. I want to get Icarus, as he represents to me free will, that his moment of flight was worth more than having never flown at all. You know, in the story, he was one of the only human beings that had flight, because he wanted to be like the gods, and the gods smited him down because they said, no, silly mortal. And there's multiple ways to interpret that story, but I'm looking at it purely based off of human spirit. It's human spirit. It's the free spirit. It's the free spirit that does not subject itself to any rules whatsoever. That there is no, as long as you are not harming anyone and you've not hurt anyone and you are not imposing on another person's free will, I do not believe you have done any wrong. Like, if you want to make a bunch of loud noise, you don't even know how to play an instrument, and you're just going scratching a guitar, but you're having a fucking great time, and your family or your neighbors hate it, or your friends are like, what the fuck? Who gives a damn, dude? You're not hurting anyone. The problem they're having is that you're disrupting their normality. You're disrupting their experience of normalcy. Let's look up what it means to mean to what normal means, because I've been doing definition searches of certain words that I have an understanding of what they mean, but I want to have all right. So normal, conforming to a standard, usual, typical, or expected. The usual, average, or typical state or condition. So we've grown accustomed to this normal condition. Well, what's normal to people now is not normal to me, because I'm coming from a place of looking at history and intersecting all of it to form what I believe is a new form of being, and that is communion in the earth, with the earth. It's heretical to suggest that we are not of God, right? Our consciousness is of the universe. Our bodies are of the earth. These are earth. This is an earth body. It belongs to this planet. It was made by this planet, man. That's fucking radical. Some people don't believe in evolution. Sometimes I doubt it because of the way I was raised, but I have a belief in it because it's scientifically proven. But then there's people who are like, oh, well, they're making up the science because they want to get rid of God. They want to push in the devil. If you look across history, at every time anyone said something was the devil, it happened to be right. When they killed Galileo, the Catholic Church, I believe, beheaded Galileo because he was like, yo, guys, the earth is not the center of the fucking universe. There's all these stars. I can see them. They're in the sky. They killed him. He was evil. He was not a good guy. I can smoke these cigarettes like nobody's business, man. This video is going to take a minute to upload. We're rolling in. What time is it? It's 10:56. I feel as if I could talk till 12 o'clock. Because the more and more I continue, the more and more I have a clear focus on what it is I got to get done, what it is I have to say, what it is I got to do, what it is I need to feel. This country's always been some sort of an experiment. And now we're the ones being experimented on. They're testing how things work on people. That's not a conspiracy, that is fact. That is fact. One person alone cannot change the world. I cannot, in my scope at this present day, change the world, but I can hopefully collectivize us to come together, and we can. 10,000 people can change the world. 1,000 people can change. 100 people can change the world. And what I'm suggesting is that we do not make the mistakes of our ancestors in having some sort of cult ideology, and that we look at objective free will, that we are all individuals, yet we are one thing, but at the end of the day we are an individual with individual experiences. Maybe the closer we get to communion and community, the experience becomes less individual and shared, right? So we don't form these bonds of like self to the degree that separates us from our neighbors in India, to the point where we're like, well, I don't have anything in common with Indians. Yes, you do. We all came from that scope of the world. Especially Americans. Americans inhabited this land 300-400 years ago. We're fresh little beans over here. Okay? We're all from Europe. Europe was the world, man. Crazy. This country's new in history. In history, it's like this. It's this small in the scope of history. Now, we had the Native Americans who lived here, and look what we did. We took what was theirs, and it could have been ours. I don't think they would have ever had a problem of us all just kind of living together. But that's not what we did, is it? We said, nope, you're going to go over here and we're going to just have this. We want this. This is now a part of our empire. Jeez Louise, man. It's my optimism that keeps me in the belief system that we will be able to have peace on earth. And only then can we transcend this realm. Well, no, the minute or the hour, you've got to die. It's almost a happy song. I don't want to be immortal. Immortally wiping my ass with toilet paper? Are you kidding me? Fuck. Fuck no. Fuck no. Fuck no. And so if we're here to learn, make sure you're learning. Make sure you're giving, make sure you're feeling, make sure you're exploring your mind and your thoughts and your ideas. And as we move to the change that I do feel, change is gonna come. I was born by the river in a little tent, just like the river, baby. I've been running ever since. It's Greta Van Fleet. And for all their likeness to Led Zeppelin didn't write that song. They did, so credit where credit's due, I guess. They say a phrase I am still coming into understanding: as above, so below. That this plane mimics the plane above. That language is magic. And our will does impose itself on reality. And my will not die so long as I am breathing. Everything's an idea. This jacket was an idea. This is one of the biggest ideas of the past 2,000 years. You know, I have to say, forgive me, Lord, if I'm in some sort of blissful ignorance of your truth, but this is an idea, man. It's easy to tell that not much is really sacred. Bob Dylan. I immersed myself with poets before. I was into Bob Dylan when I was a jit. No one knew who that was. You show people and they were like, I don't like this. What do you not like? You don't like the some sort of form of a fact? I'm not saying that Bob Dylan had it all right or has it all right. I don't think he would suggest that. He was in my dream last night, whatever. Pretty interesting. There was some sort of ride that we were taking in Switzerland. I'm not sure, but Sweden, Switzerland, and I don't know. It was like this weird ride through Switzerland on this like train coaster that had all these images of things that were like Swedish people, like blonde hair and blue eyes. I'm not exactly sure what that all meant. George Harrison once in a dream told me that it's always okay to smoke cigarettes. Crazy what the subconscious can do. And he took me to some sort of spiritual temple and was like, you will get to be reincarnated. Paul McCartney was in a dream of mine once, and we were just in a beautiful home of his, and it was storming, lightning, thunder, and raining. It was really scary, but he played the piano and we played some music, and it was all calm. I've never dreamt that I was John Lennon, or more so that I believe that at one point I was. on the Newtopia Instagram page, they wrote a phrase, "You are John Lennon and you are dreaming." And I was like, all right, I am. I think, therefore, I am. And if this life is a dream, what do we want it to be like? I want a world where we are all together, playing and singing songs that have been passed down for generations. I'm interested to learn more about music's history, and that's something I'm going to explore today. And look up some of the old hymns and some of the old poems. I've always wanted to incorporate David's Psalms into my music because they are beautiful. And for every thing I offer about religion being a negative, there's a lot of beauty and love in it. But love comes with the understanding that I love my God, so I'm going to kill you because you don't believe in my God, but I love you. That doesn't really, those two don't go together. Waiting for my Yoko? People don't like Yoko Ono. I'm pretty sure that woman has never taken another lover. At least not in the public eye. Pretty sure she's still being an activist. There are still activists, like if you look at Patti Smith. I really wish I could sit down and have a cup of coffee with Patti. Maybe she could make a little bit more of it make all sense to me. Or maybe not. Maybe I'd even be more confused, so. But I'd really like to have a conversation with Patti Smith on this frame of mind, on these subjects, because she comes from a generation of where she saw the 60s happen. She was like in it. She saw the counterculture and the revolution, and then she also saw it fade away. And I read her memoir, M Train, of how she's now moving through her days, or was, or is. And then I read Just Kids about her and Robert Mapplethorpe at the beginning of the year, and that was a fantastic book that led me onto my journey in New York. But when I got to New York, while I met a lot of people, the spirit is much alive. I was in Washington Square Park, and I recorded a song there with a girl I'd met. And you could definitely feel the energy, and it was really cool. And I was surprised to realize that there was not a lot of people who had recorded or were recording music in that park, but that seemed like a really great place to do it. And you could argue, well, there's background noise. You mean the noise of the people? I don't want to record in a box in some room and think I'm channeling something super mega special. I think the best place to record is outside, because you get all these little tweetles of the birds, and you get the little bit of the wind, and the wind carries its own message, man. How many roads must a man walk down before you call him man? Yes, and how many seas must my bird sail before he sees in land? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. And without sounding superstitious, it's been telling me for a long time that I am going places. That's why I'm showing up right here. That's why I started doing things. That's why I started making things, because I am going places that most people haven't been. And you cannot take advice on this path that is whatever it is from people who've never been where you want to go. So I want to be on a podium speaking these thoughts at a better place in life where I've collected them more and gathered them more. So this will be titled Pooling Thoughts, and written them down and have read more books so that I can deliver a lecture to a massive audience in person. It's sometimes you just want to go around wakey 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 wakey. That doesn't do nobody any good. You can't really shake people to wake up, man. They're like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? They don't know. They don't get it. It's a chilly October. I suspect we're going to have a real cold winter here in this country. In places where it gets cold, especially up north, if it's this cold here, oh my gosh, they must be. Let's look. What's going on with the weather in Vermont? I'm curious. Yeah, it's already 46 degrees there. It's going to be a cold winter. I can feel it. It's going to be real cold. I mean, historically. Maybe, I think I actually saw a video about this a few months ago that suggested there's going to be massive snowfall this year. So if that's the case, I'm definitely not going to go to New York City to be homeless. But if anybody wants to take me in, I'm pretty relaxed. I like coffee in the morning and a pack of cigarettes. And I have my means of recording myself, so that works. So yeah, a little bit of food and a cup of water, and I'm Gucci. Don't need anything fancy. We don't need to be wearing this Louis Vuitton bullshit, $2,000 fucking dollars for a fucking purse. What the hell? And there's always been people who had more. There's always been people who suffered. But now we're in the present day, and there can be a greater alignment of value and virtue. The mailman's coming by. I'm going to try to wave, if I can, to the mailman. Hello! I waved. Have a good day! Cool. The mailman used to be a part of everyone's lives. People would know the mailman. Undervalued. See, that's an essential worker. That I hope that person's life is going really well and their family is being taken care of because they deserve it. 11/11. Well, I wish to be famous and in a position of power to the degree of influencing change that I believe that needs to be in the world, and have the financial assets to support myself, my family, and my community, and create at a level that is communicated instantly, and that I'm not just sitting around on songs and ideas that are not being heard now when I believe they should be being heard. Everything has its time, but I wished for that time to be now. Amen. So mote it be. That's my little prayer. One hour. Wow. Still recording. Pretty fantastic. Hopefully the audio hasn't been too bad. Let's see. I'm gonna zip this up. It is cold here. It's probably only in the 50s here, but tell you what, cold winter. Something to do with climate change, maybe? Jamaica's experienced some sort of hurricane. I think I saw on the news that's really devastating that community. We do influence the weather as human beings in the sense of like all the stuff going into the atmosphere, right? That's science. I think young Mrs. Greta Thunberg was a young girl, wise beyond my years. And it was so weird to see so many people my age at the time, like, who is this? We're listening to this rhetoric of, like, putting her down or whatnot, and it's like, what? This is one of, like, she's a young person who's, like, risking their... I'm pretty sure she was captured by Israel? If I'm not mistaken, I should check up on that. She was delivering food to Palestine? like, what the frick? This is a magical human being who's really fearless in so many ways. So I said young girl, but that kind of does a disservice to her in a way or some form or fashion. Time has come for violent revolution. Yin Yang 6-7. Internet. It's true though. Yin Yang, right? Balance. So you want something great, and an opposing negative force comes with that. The French people wouldn't have ever been free if they didn't die. And it'd be nice to suppose that, the revolution to come doesn't need to have or require the need for death, but historically it points to the fact that it is a necessity, but I would like it to be differently. So let's hope it can be, but if it comes to it, we need to be like, all right. Our founding fathers said, give me liberty or give me death. And they were riddled with, being wrong in so many ways on a historical base of where we've grown with time. But at the end of the day, they did believe in freedom for all. So they wrote. It's on paper, right? And that... Do you guys ever pop your ears and just have clarity? There we go. Woo. 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 Hear my voice echoing in the cul-de-sac. I mean, just all these people, like alone in their homes, I mean, they're not alone. They have their significant others, and it's cold outside, so I can understand the need for wanting to feel warm. And this is the season of death, so that comes with probably a lot of the ways I'm feeling. In Greek mythology, Persephone descends into hell this time of year, and so that spirit of love is gone. I see why people really like summertime. It would be amazing if we gave people access to be able to take vacations whenever they want, because this time of year when it's cold, you could go on vacation somewhere where it's warm. Vacation's a word I don't like. Yeah, man, here's 2 weeks where you get to go be free, and when you come back, you're going to be working for me. And if you stop working for me, keep in mind, employer doesn't say this isn't the language, but this is what it is. And if you stop working for me, you're not going to be able to pay your bills anymore, and you're not going to be able to support your children, and you're not going to be able to have a home anymore, because you're going to default on whatever bank loan you took, and they're going to come and take your house, and in a few short weeks to a month or two, you'll be homeless. Your whole family will be homeless. So now that you've got on this bargain, you're on this train, you can't stop riding it. And I think that stops a lot of people, unfortunately. So what do we do to circumnavigate that? Community. Supporting people. This earth provides all we need. We have the sun for electricity. We do not need fossil fuels. Oh, well, I might not be able to watch TV at night. Go to bed. Read a book. What do you need light for at night? It got dark for a reason, dude. What happened to candles? Candles are cool. Candlelight's freaking sacred, man. Candlelight's like that gift from Prometheus, who gave us fire. According to ancient legend. It's funny what we call mythology in the present day and age, when that was the belief system at the time. It's like, almost like a disservice to call it mythology. That was like historical record for them. All I can hear is blind Willie McTell. You got to die. So I'm really going to make the steps to determine what kind of experience I want in the next coming days, and have some conversations with family members and see where that gets me. We'll just have to see. I can sit here and talk all day. I'm outside though. Change can come today. Because it does take time for flowers to grow. So, an hour and 10, about to reach an hour and 11. Seems like a perfect place to stop it.